Hey everybody, Steve here. So I know it's been a long time and I promised I'd put this video up. What in the world have I been up to? So I'll give you a little bit of background. I was a C-17 pilot in the U.S. Air Force for many years. And the last time I flew, I was a squadron commander at McChord Air Force Base up in Washington. And I finished that in 2011. So that was the last time I actually flew the C-17. Was my Finney flight. I think it was June 2nd, 2011, something like that. So I went off, I did a staff tour. I was there for just over 3 years, a little bit more, and then I separated from the Air Force and retired. So I'm a retired colonel and retired from the Air Force. So at that point in time, I'm like, I didn't want anything to do with the airlines. That life really didn't appeal to me at all. So I was looking around. I mean, I remember that summer looking around for jobs. What in the world can I do? I mean, I was looking at the railroads. I was looking at Chick-fil-A. Actually, I was looking hard at Chick-fil-A. I was like, oh man, the guys that own/run these stores, I mean, that's pretty good living, and you get free Chick-fil-A. I'm like, man, that's a deal. So I applied for that. No, I didn't make it past the first round there because they found out they really leaned towards people that have worked for Chick-fil-A before. So that's how you get them, for those of you interested in Chick-fil-A stores. So I'm looking all around. I'd reached out to a buddy of mine that I had flown with in Altus at the schoolhouse there, C-17s, and I knew he was a sim instructor. So I reached out to him and said, hey, how's the life? I mean, how's the work? How do you like it? And he talked about it. He's great, it's awesome. He goes, have you thought about anything about overseas? And that's what got the ball rolling. I was like, okay. And I called him, got to talking with him, and he had just come over here to Abu Dhabi, was the first site manager here, and was working for Boeing, and they were just starting up a site, and they had a position that opened it up. So I said, I'm very interested, and talking it over with Arlene, of course. And she's like, yep, that sounds good. And at the time, Benjamin and Bella were both, Benjamin was a sophomore in high school, and Bella was in the 8th grade. So when we started the new year, the plan was for me to come over, kind of lay the groundwork, and then bring Arlene and Benjamin and Bella over and live over here. That was the plan. And I was over here for a year, and it just kind of got slow. The plan was I was going to take over for my friend as the site lead here and work for Boeing, and that just didn't happen. So it was a year away from home. I was not getting any good feeling on any kind of future or anything else, and I was kind of tired of being away from home. So, and I wanted to give some stability because Bella was about to start high school. That's what it was. So this was in early 2016. So that was, Benjamin was 10th grade. Bella was in the 8th grade. That was then. And that was, I wanted to give some stability. So that's when I talked to a friend about the junior ROTC thing, and that's when I did that. So I'd always kind of wanted to teach, and here was a chance to teach in high school. And so I did that for about 2.5 years. So from 2016 to halfway through 2018, well, it was like January 2019. And the plan was always to kind of come back and do the sim thing when the kids were up and out of the house. That was always kind of the plan. So I came back on. They said there wasn't a full-time position. There was part-time. So I'm like, that's great. Worked great. So for 2019, I worked part-time as a sim instructor. And I bounced around. I mostly went to India. I came here once, but mostly India. And I did that. It was awesome. I mean, I was working basically 6 months out of the year, home the rest of the time. I had some other subject matter expert work when I was at home that I was reviewing C-17 pubs and computer-based training modules and things like that. So even when I was home, I was doing a little bit of work and still, bringing money in. So I ended up making more that year than I did working as a junior ROTC instructor. I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna keep this train going. This is a pretty good deal. And it started picking up the vibes that the part-time work was drying up. And I'm like, okay, well, look, I need to commit here. And that's when I came back here. Okay, so I came back to Abu Dhabi then COVID hit, and I sat around waiting. So pretty much all of 2020 was waiting. And at the end of 2020, it's about November, doors opened up. Hey, you can come, and I came here to Abu Dhabi. So from November of 2020 until now, I've been working in Abu Dhabi as a C-17 sim instructor. Not quite the same as flying an airplane. I mean, it keeps me in aviation, though. It kept me around the airplane and the systems and the procedures and teaching guys to fly. And every now and then I'd have to get in a seat and show them something. It's still keeping my skills fresh. And so, I've done that. And then this summer of 2022, I had the opportunity to slot into the site manager position. So the guy that was doing it was leaving. I said, look, I'll stay on. I'll be an instructor and site manager, and we were in the process of working that. And I just got to talk with Arlene. My brother-in-law, both of them are fly with airlines, and I talked with my one brother-in-law, Sean, quite a bit. And hold on, room guys here to clean the room. Stand by. Okay, back again. Sorry about the interruption. Room cleaner came by to clean up my room. So I was talking with Sean. I've talked with him quite a bit about the airlines and kind of what his life's like and everything else. And it got me and Arlene both thinking, in these days and times with the airlines wanting to hire so bad, there's a pilot shortage, is what they say. And I know the challenge is it's been a long time since I've flown. So that was, it was getting to the point where it's kind of like what it would take to get back up to it. I mean, there's never a guarantee, so, but I'm weighing all of that with, probably the biggest thing in 2020, during COVID, one of the things I did, and I posted some videos of that, of going back to get my private pilot's license. So I started flying again. And I remembered how much I liked it. And I really like flying, and of course I'm still involved with aviation, and I think I was pretty good at it. And all of those things started coming together, and Arlene and I talking, and then still leaning towards staying, but back and forth. And finally Arlene's like, Stephen, I've got 2 grandkids now, getting older, family's all here, and spending time with family. And she's like, I can't come over there. I don't want to come over there. And we have the choice and the option of moving on to something else. And that's kind of what drove that decision. And of course I prayed about it quite a bit, and we both did. And I just feel at peace about it and moving on to this other aspect of life. So that's how all that happened. So this was in July. And so decided that that's what we're going to do. And this will be a big new chapter in my life and everything else. So now it's like, okay, well, what's it going to take? So first thing I've got to do, so this is one of the first of many of these videos, I think, of my journey along to be an airline pilot, hopefully. So the first step is you have to get the proper ratings and certifications. So after coming out of pilot training, I went and tested with the FAA, and I was a commercial airline pilot with an instrument rating. So that's the 2 things, and that I got that back in 1995. So you take a test, which we studied for and passed, and a bunch of us went down right after pilot training and did that. So I've always had that. And multi-engine commercial pilot. So you've got single engine, which is one engine, obviously, and then multi-engine is more than one. And so I've had that, but to be an airline pilot, you need one more step, which is probably like the doctorate in aviation, is to get your airline transport pilot, ATP. You got to get that certification. So that's the next step. Now, I've been studying. I signed up for a course in North Carolina. There's a company there that does it, that specializes in the military to ATP. That's the name of the company, Mil to ATP. And I'll be going with them. I put a deposit down, got a reservation. So there's two parts to that. It's starting to get complicated now. So first part is I'll go to Atlanta in December, and I'll go through some simulator training and ground school for that. And then you have to take a written test. And that's 100 questions pulled from a huge bank of questions. And I'll have to take that test and do that. And then once I'm done with that, I turn right around, I go to North Carolina, and I'm going to do the flying portion of it. And I think it's 3 flights in a twin engine Seneca. And I'll do that. And then at the end of that, you get a check ride from an FAA evaluator. So once you, assuming that I pass that, I hope I do, I'll have my ATP rating, and from that point, then I can apply to the airlines. And so, what have I been working on? Well, I've got all of all of these papers, all of these questions for the ATP test that I went through. Each one of those questions, there's a ground eval I went through, and I've gone through all of these questions and got the answers down, studying that. I've got this book here, Everything Explained for the Professional Pilot, all this information. So the good news is a lot of this carries over from my military flying. So it's not quite the Herculean task to get up to speed on that. The other thing that I've been mostly working on is getting my applications together. So the big part of that is some of the applications are a lot more involved than others. One in particular, I plan to apply to Delta, who my one brother-in-law flies with, and that application is quite extensive. And you've got to, where have you lived for the past 10 years, references, every job that you've ever had, trying to remember speeding tickets. That's another one. Because they want to know, are you a hoodlum, I guess, or something. But trying to remember that, I'm like, I can remember 2, maybe 3, maybe. I can't even remember that far back now. I'm trying to remember that. References, like I said, college transcripts, GPAs, all that's pretty extensive. And so I've been putting that together, putting that effort in with that. And then you put the application in, and then hopefully you get a call. Hopefully they look at it and say, you're the type of person we're interested in. And in the case of like Delta, they'll if they call you, you come in for an interview, and there's a cognitive test. I'm going to have to go and find that. It's basically, orientation type things, like here's an airplane, and then you get the instrument. You have to, which instrument is the correct orientation for this airplane, and all kind of cognitive tests. So I have to find that, and there's examples of that to kind of get up to speed on that. And there's an HR interview, there's a psych test, all of that stuff. And it's like, there's times I'm going, what in the world? This old dog, you're going to teach him some new tricks. But the payoff is good. Now, one of the companies I am looking at is some cargo carriers, and one in particular, Kalita Air, that I'm really looking hard at. The thing that they offer is home basing. So you can live anywhere you want, as long as you're near an airport, you can and that they can fly you out of to where the airplane is. And that particular schedule is 16 days on, 14 days off, and that really appeals to me. It'll be gone for 2 weeks, and it's a little bit like what my Air Force flying was like. Typically, the trips that we did were a couple of weeks, and then you're home. The difference is there was no guarantee you'd be home for 14 days. Arlene, reminds me of that quite often. We had, young kids at home, and I would go on a 2-week trip, and I'd come home, and usually you got post-mission crew rest. And then a lot of times it was, oh, hey, I'm on a trip next week. And it was, surprise. And coming home, I always dreaded coming home telling her that. But this is a little more of a schedule. So it's long flying. I talked with a buddy the other day who flies, or is going to be flying for them. He just finished training, but he's about my age too. And I was asking him, one of the things I'm concerned about with that kind of flying is the long hours. So typically the missions are 20 hours, and you land and you have a day or two off, and then you do it again, and it's that for 16 days, and I'm time zone changes and all of that, and I always said when I went back to flying for the air, when I went back to McCord and was flying, I did a few of those trips, and I was like, whoo, that's a young man's game, jumping around time zones and all that. The difference is those guys, the commercial cargo like that, they typically will they augment the crews, and you don't have to worry about finding food and all of that, and so it's a little easier, and it appeals to me a great deal, and one of these days very soon, and I'm already getting the green light. Arlene's already mentioned that she's ready to find the farm and start settling down, and that would make that kind of possible. I mean, having 2 weeks off to work around, paddle around the farm, and take care of that appeals to me a great deal. But commercial, the other side of it would be with Delta or American or one of those airlines, is you're typically gone for 4 days and home for 3 days, but you're commuting. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm concerned about that, about the commuting, and living, where I'm at now in Charleston. Of course, one of the challenges there is big reserve unit there. A lot of guys fly for Delta, and a lot of guys are hopping on planes, jump seating or empty seats, trying to get to where their domicile is. And that's the thing with the passenger airlines, is you have a domicile, and the risk is, like with United or Delta, is if I got domiciled across the country, well, I'm expected to get over there in time to be ready to fly. And if I have a 7 o'clock in the morning flight out of Seattle, say, I'm going to have to fly from the East Coast all the way over to Seattle the day before to be there to get rested and then fly the trip. And then when I'm done, you finish at your domicile, and then you make your own way back home. And so, with 4 days of work, 3 days at home, and if you're burning 2 trying to get back and forth, I mean, I'm kind of doing the math going, And then, okay, well, then you could also put trips together with a day off in between and just get a crash pad, is what they call it. So a lot of pilots will go in together on a crash pad, and you pay a couple $100 a month, and you have a room, and that's a place for you to crash while you're waiting for your next flight. So now I'm gone, 10 days, and then I got to still make my way home, and then I'm, maybe have a little longer off. But, there's other ways around that. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking, longer bits at home, work out. I'm also, I applied to Boeing for a subject matter expert job with Boeing. and got accepted. And so Arlene and I are talking about that and how that's going to work now. But that may open up an opportunity for some additional work. And of course, I've got my Air Force retired pay, which really makes it nice. Gives me some flexibility and what I can do, and of course, I'll keep doing the YouTube videos. So tell Arlene, one of these days I'll have 4 jobs. Anyway, that's where I'm at now. That's what I've been working on. That's what's been going on in my mind. And there hadn't been a whole lot of room for cooking. Like I said, I've been eating a lot of sandwiches, a lot of oatmeal, and so just something quick. Just had a lot on my mind. Of course, winding down here in Abu Dhabi and that transition and that turnover and making sure everything's squared away when I leave. So there's been a lot going on now, but I just want to share some of that with you. And, just be praying for me. What the future is going to hold. I get back on the 27th. Benjamin ships out on the 29th on his next patrol with the Coast Guard. So I'm going to be able to, he'll have the day off on the 28th. So that's going to work out real nice. Get to fly back, spend some time with him. Bella's, we're going to meet up in Virginia at my in-laws' house. And Bella's going to drive over, and we're going to have a nice little family get together. Be nice to see everybody again. And then come down the next week. I've got a dental appointment, which is long overdue, and I've got my Class 1 medical physical. So they're going to take a look at me to make sure I got a good ticker. Check your heart and everything else for a Class 1 medical physical. That's the first step. Got to pass that. And then it's getting ready for my ATP check and putting in my applications and all that. So got a lot going on. It's busy, but I'm excited. Next chapter. Hope everything works out. So it's a long-winded explanation of why I haven't been posting a lot of cooking videos, but that I just wanted to give you some idea of everything going on right now. It's pretty busy. So, but I do read your comments, and I do. I'm continuing on with the devotionals. I hope you guys like those. Certainly is a blessing for me doing them. So anyway, that's what's been going on, and I appreciate your thoughts and prayers and good thoughts, and we'll keep you up to date with what's going on, and we'll see you next time. Take care.